Well, how long?
Yes. That's, New York, Mississippi.
Right, New York.
Southwest of all.
Thank you, man. Wow, I'm going to.
How are you? So this.
It's 1:30. We're gonna go ahead and get the meeting started.
I just want to give you a brief introduction to the microphone system.
Okay.
If the green light is on, the microphone is on, if it's working, we'll transmit your voice. So a couple of things. The button with the three dots on it is a mute button. So it is a push to mute. Once you release it, it's going to come back on.
Okay.
You can manually turn it off or turn it on. But the mute button is very important if you need to have a conversation.
Yes.
Other than that, it's all automatic and it works great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pamela Smith, Planning Commission Vice Chair. Welcome to the October public hearing of the City Planning Commission. This meeting is being broadcast live via YouTube. Please make sure that the sound on all electronic devices is turned off during the meeting. If you wish to speak to any manner, I'll recognize you in turn. When recognized, speakers should approach the podium. Each speaker must state his or her name and residential address so that the commission secretary may record the proceedings accurately. All persons shall be afforded an opportunity to speak and state their views concerning all aspects of this matter. Ms. Clark, would you please take the roll?
Ms. Maddox Dumpa, and of course, Mr. Martin's another advice today, so Mr. Ishman,
Here.
Mr. Settle,
Here.
Ms. Wolf, here, Ms. Smith, here.
So next is the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, may I have a motion and a second, please?
So we're.
Second.
Thank you. And since there is no unfinished business, let's move on to new business.
Sorry, Ms. Smith, we will have to approve the minutes from last meeting as well.
My apologies, I didn't. May I have a motion and a second, please? Thank you. So we have an application by CSW Associates, Roanoke LC, and CSW Brandon Frontage LLC to repeal all conditions proffered as part of a previous rezoning on property located at 3840 Stratford Park Drive Southwest, official tax map number 5200122. Enacted through ordinance number 33098. The second is repeal all conditions proffered as part of a previous rezoning on property located at 0 Brandon Avenue Southwest, official tax map number 5200104, enacted through ordinance 25825. And lastly, we have placed conditions on a portion of the property at 3840 Stratford Park Drive Southwest and the entirety of 0 Brandon Avenue Southwest, bearing official tax map numbers 5200, 5200122, and 5200104 respectively. Is the applicant present?
Good afternoon, members of the commission.
So please state your name and residential address so the secretary of the commission can record the matter accurately. And please tell us about your project.
Ben Crew, Balzer and Associates, 1208 Corporate Circle, Roanoke, Virginia, 24018. Thanks for standing in for the chair today. So we're going to talk about item 1 today and want to walk through a little bit of that. I'm representing both of the CSW entities that are part of the title paragraph that you just read just a minute ago. I also have Paige Pruitt with me this afternoon. You'll hear from her in just a minute. You know, she's the property owner and the applicant on this, and so wanted to give you all an opportunity hear a few highlights from my side and then also some items from the ownership side as well as part of this request. So really excited to be with you all this afternoon to share the project, talk about the vision of what we're looking for this new townhouse community. I think it's important to share with this project's of a scale that it will be a new community. And you don't see that very often where a lot of projects in the city can be smaller and can be infill. So this will be a new community. This project we feel reflect current housing trends, development standards, and have been carefully crafted to respond to some of the on-site conditions such as topography and some of the environmental areas of the site, and the exhibit plan reflects that. I'm going to walk through a few high-level items that I think are pertinent for everybody to share about the project, and then let Paige share a couple of comments. I appreciate staff's thoroughness, both from Colette's side and Catherine's side up to this side. I think it's very important from the staff report that there's 6 or 7 or 8 pages of important items listed in there in addition to the application package that we've provided. So as you all know, these projects don't happen overnight. There's a lot of planning efforts to get to me standing before you and you all hearing it this afternoon. Initially we held a meeting with staff to introduce the project and share our proposed development and solicit feedback from the initial concept efforts. We revised that plan based on that feedback and then started, the official pre-submittal process for the zoning side. We submitted our application package. We attended a couple of work sessions with you all, listened to feedback from that side, received staff comments, and then have responded to those along the way. We also attended the Dyer Early Neighborhood meeting, which Paige will expand upon a little bit because we thought it was important to make sure to involve the community group that we were a part of. So, there's lots of steps, and it's important to share those because the revised application before you reflects those changes along the way. I think it's also important that this request, we're not changing the base zoning district here. So as residential multifamily today, it's going to be residential multifamily as part of what we're proposing as, a high intensity residential district within the city of Roanoke. We've included both civil and architectural exhibits that have been provided as part of the application to convey what we're intending as the project. And then in response to those 2 proffered conditions that we voluntarily provided, addressing some of the comments, including sidewalks and access, and those conditions are a part of the revised application. Important part about this as well, prior to officially filing the application, we prepared a traffic study as part of this project, and that was prepared and submitted back in June, at the beginning of the summer, because we wanted to ensure that where we were headed and the traffic impacts were going to be okay for the proposed project prior to any of the filing actions that we took. And so, we're excited that staff is in concurrence with what we've submitted, and we've agreed upon the findings, recommendations, and the traffic data that we provided. So I think it's really important to share that. So we're excited to have staff support as part of this project. It's been a lot of work to get here, and we're excited that the staff report recommends approval for that and supports the base zoning district, future land use map, the intent of the neighborhood, and a handful of things of what CSW is trying to envision with this new community. So with those couple thoughts, I'll invite Paige to share a couple words from her side, and then be happy to answer any questions from you all.
Did you just say your name and address, please, just for the record?
Sure. Do you want the residential address or CSW's corporate address?
The CSW.
Okay. Paige Lester Pruitt, 3807 Brandon Avenue Southwest, Suite 245. Good afternoon. And thank you all so much for what you do. I realize this is such an important task, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be here and staff's work as well as the hard work you guys still have to do. I wanted to take this opportunity. CSW has been in the community. We're a small local family-owned business, second generation. We've been in this area for decades. We've actually held this property for the most part for decades. We acquired the smaller parcel more recently, but we are very committed to this area and the Brandon Avenue corridor, and we're very excited about the positive direction that's been going in. We are an existing property manager for multifamily apartments, so we're very familiar with that market. We looked at this and really thought about the question of what could serve the area best, and we decided that was not apartments, and we looked for an opportunity and truly believe that this townhouse product, which can be market driven but more entry level and provide an ownership option in the area that really, to my mind, doesn't exist, at least in that very tight market, right? You have a great neighborhood with Direly Association, you have the opportunity for apartment houses, but this is really going to give an opportunity for a community at hopefully a more available entry point for first-time home buyers or other home buyers who are looking for a permanent home and want to call Roanoke City their home. So we are very passionate about it. As I say, we've been here for decades, plan to be here for decades. We are a neighbor to this property, so we are personally invested in its success and it being a good project that's not going to have an adverse impact to the area. To that end, the Direly Association was very generous in allowing me to come to one of their meetings, make a presentation, answer questions. I think we all have an awareness of that corridor, and as Ben alluded or said directly, we recognize that traffic would be a concern, and we wanted to make sure we took it into account, and that's part of the reason we commissioned the study before we even got any further along. But we certainly want to be a good neighbor and think this can be a great project and a great community within this larger area.
May I have staff recommendation?
Chair and Commission, thank you very much. We are actually going to do a quick presentation prior to the staff recommendation, just to ensure that everyone is on the same page with what is being requested here from the applicant. So as stated, the applicant is requesting to repeal and replace conditions on the property for the purpose of constructing a 195 unit townhome development. This property is guided in the comprehensive plan as being for mixed residential, and also within the Direly neighborhood plan as being for residential multifamily. The base zoning district for both of these parcels is also residential multifamily, so in alignment with both of those planning documents. And as I stated earlier, this is a repeal and replacement for the proper conditions. The base zoning district of residential or RMF residential would remain the same. The property is also within the overlay district for both the floodplain and for the River Creek Corridor District. So basically what that means is that in the development of this parcel, there would be additional restrictions placed on the development form and the construction to ensure that it was meeting additional standards for being constructed within the floodplain, should they construct in the floodplain, and then buffer provided along the river corridor, the Barnhart Creek corridor that's running through the property. It also has been brought to our attention that this is within the Windsor Lake Dam breach zone. And so that will also be reviewed as part of the comprehensive development plan process for this project as well. Any sort of additional standards that would be put in place from the state because of this dam breach zone. So here's a street view of the property. So you can see that the property generally is relatively wooded. I've placed asterisks where the approximate entrance location would be. And so this is driving on Brandon Avenue facing west, driving on Brandon Avenue facing east, approximately where the entrance to the community would be located. Here's the concept plan that the applicant is proposing as along with this repeal and replacement of proper conditions. This is just a concept plan. They haven't proffered this plan. So this is what is being proposed at this point in time, but would be subject to change and still meeting the proper conditions that they're putting in place. And the concept building elevations shown here. So there are two ordinances that fall over the parcels right now where conditions are put into place. And so one of them is on a smaller tax parcel ID that's closer to the Brandon Avenue frontage. This ordinance was put into place in 1981 and is not able to be located at this time. So the applicant is just requesting to repeal all of the conditions that were potentially in place at that point in time. The larger portion of the, or the larger parcel that's part of this zoning request is, has 4 Crawford conditions placed on them, or placed on it. One of them is for substantial conformity with the site plan, and others relate to the internal access and construction of the road that goes through the future development. Here is the site plan that was part of that rezoning. So you can see that the form of the required concept plan is that it takes the form of a apartment building and of townhomes on the site. And it was for approximately 100 units at that point in time. It also would open up development to the other portion of the parcel that does not have proper conditions on it today. So that being said, the primary request that's before you today is for the change in form of what the residential construction would be on this site. So being from apartment buildings and townhomes to being something that's more flexible, to be townhomes as the concept plan shows today. The applicant has also requested to put in 2, or has offered to put in 2 property conditions as part of the zoning request. So one of them is to have multiple points of entry for the purposes of emergency vehicles and access to the development. And then the other one will provide sidewalks throughout the development for pedestrian connectivity and for residents that live within the development. As the applicant shared, they did do a traffic study as part of their application. And so some high-level results of the traffic study, the entire traffic report was provided within their application. But the high-level results is that the PM traffic or right and left turn lane would be warranted, but not with the AM traffic that was generated. When our transportation department reviewed the traffic study, they noted that existing left turn lane is in place going into the site, and so the review of the functionality of that turn lane will just need to be looked at the comprehensive development review plan process. And that a right turn lane is not recommended because it would conflict with the pedestrian sidewalk that's in place on Brandon today and could result in some confusion of pedestrian connectivity. Here's the general overview of the traffic generated site, or the traffic generated from the site along the Brandon Avenue corridor. The primary impacted roadway obviously is Brandon, with the next ones being the Peters Creek Road for turning movements and the Keady Road and the Varsity Storage intersection further down. And so with that, staff recommends approval and finds that the amended application number 1 is consistent with the general principles of the city's comprehensive plan, the Greater Dyerly Neighborhood Plan, and the zoning ordinance, as the property will be developed and used in a manner that supports the goals and purposes of these plans and regulations. Do you have any questions?
So commissioners, do you have any questions for either the applicant or staff?
What is, what's gonna be the price, you said affordable housing that you're gonna put on these homes?
So to kick it off first, this is not an affordable project. This is a market rate product. That's the first item. Second is, this team is gonna work with a regional or national builder for the products. And so we don't have a range yet of what the price will be for those, but the intent is what Paige shared, fee simple sales, of it, and then, you know, market rate products. Yeah.
I neglected to post this in the public meeting.
prior public meeting, but I was curious, is this going to be phased in across the proposed conceptually 195 units, or what are you anticipating in terms of the total amount of time needed to get all of the townhouses?
So depending on who the final partner is in the project, I anticipate that your build out time is between 2 and 3 years. It's probably, 195 units. It's probably in chunks of 60 or 70 units per phase. And so the great part about this is, one of the important parts is having two connections, right? And so those two connections are going to be part of the first development phase of that. And so then we'll work back on each one of those arms as it goes back into the property, as we work through those phases.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions for staff?
Not sure if this is relevant now, but will there be on-street parking?
Not anticipating on-street parking. So we provided, these units have garages, private driveway parking in each one, and then we've also provided guest parking, in a few different nodes throughout the development to serve that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do we have anyone who would like to speak to this matter as I open the public hearing?
Yes, we have Adam Strangelo.
Thank you. Would you please say your name and your address?
My name is Adam Strangelo. I live at 3528 Windsor Oaks Circle. So good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to address the Planning Commission regarding the proposed Brandon Station development. In addition, I am the president of the Greater Direly Neighborhood Association. During Greater Direly's September meeting, our guest speaker, Ms. Paige Pruitt from CSW Associates, provided us with an overview of the Brandon Station project, and then she answered any questions or concerns that the GDNA had. Many questions and concerns were addressed. However, today I'd like to focus on two that were brought up. The first, will there be an additional stoplight on Brandon Avenue? And second, how will this development affect the traffic in the Greater Direly neighborhood? Going all the way back to the 1990 Greater Direly Neighborhood Plan, our issues have been through traffic and pedestrian safety on the primary residential streets. The primary streets are two-lane and have winding alignments. They do not have defined shoulders, curbs, gutters, or sidewalks. Drainage ditches are a means for channeling stormwater. In 2025, the configuration of the primary streets hasn't changed. As stated in the current 2006 Greater Direly Plan, quote, overall, the Greater Direly is not conducive for pedestrian movement, unquote. Overall, Greater Direly is not, in reality, is definitely the opposite of the vision that Roanoke City's Complete Streets and Vision Zero programs promote. In 1992, the City of Roanoke and GDA entered into a memorandum of understanding. Its intention was to give particular attention to the present and future control of increased traffic volumes through our neighborhood caused by the new Peters Creek Road extension being built. Item number 7 in the MOU stated that annual reports of traffic volumes at 6 specific different locations would be made. When there was an increase of 25% in traffic volumes in comparison to the 1989 volumes on the street, the city would initiate a process to seek an acceptable mitigating measures. Comparing the March 2002 traffic count data collected on Direly Road with GDNA's recently collected October 2025 data, the traffic volume on Direly has increased by 25.2%, or 771 vehicles per day. However, from 2002 to 2024, the number of residential and multifamily dwellings has only increased by 105. With the expansions of Brandon Oaks, the proposed 195 new townhomes, and the new 80-room at-home extended stay hotel, all feeding into Brandon, consideration must be given to, number one, the future control of increased traffic volumes through the Greater Direly neighborhood, and number two, possibly a traffic light at the Brandon-Direly intersection for left turns onto Brandon. Because we don't have sidewalks or greenways or parks, Our city public spaces are bus service, like most all the other city neighborhoods do. The traffic volume and speeding issues in our neighborhood is very important. I'd like to ask the city if they would begin working with Greater Darley as soon as possible to help us address these concerns. So thank you for your time, your consideration, and for what you do for our city.
Thank you.
Anyone else registered? Not sure if anyone else would like to.
Thank you. Well, hearing no one else, the public hearing portion of this matter is closed. I'm sorry. One more.
I think.
Did you sign that? Would you like to? No. Okay. My name is Gary Stein, and my street address is 3827 Chesterton, which is parallel with Budlick and perpendicular to Darley, and basically in the backyard of the Covenant Presbyterian Church. My excitement about this project is the willingness and hopefully the willingness of the city to work with the Neighborhood Darley Association to address some of the unforeseen challenges of basically building a new village. Because that I've seen, as I see it, and Adam very clearly stated that we're kind of headed into, at this moment, we're not looking in terms of, you know, the future a year from now. I mean, the project is going to take about 3 years from what the developers have been saying. But what I'm encouraging the planning commission, the city, and the rest of the people in the neighborhood association to consider is, you know, this is a big deal. I mean, I'm not saying I don't know about Adam, but I'm not here as an opponent. I'm more here as someone that's willing to work beside the city, because of what I see coming is, you know, there are questions that we're going to need to answer. There is a firehouse very close by on Peters Creek. I have no idea how far it is to the nearest police station. In terms of sidewalks, the developers talking about addressing the idea of sidewalks within the community. But beyond that, I guess one of my questions would be, well, so how are we going to get there if we happen to be walking or in a wheelchair or on a bicycle? And I don't have a lot of time invested in this in terms of weeks and months. Sounds like the developer's been working on it since last summer. But the owner has been working on it, you know, pondering it for longer than that. But I think there are some things that are going to come into play. And one is, now that Peters Creek has been completed and comes all the way through, that's kind of a pinch point there. And yes, there's a light there. And yes, there's commuter traffic in the morning and in the afternoon. And one thing that I want to throw out there, and this is only a brainstorm, and that is the idea, everyone was kind of amazed when they put a couple of traffic circles there at Virginia Western. And then they finally completed the traffic circles at Virginia Western. But the nice thing about traffic circles is there is no pinch point in a traffic circle. And I think that's something we need to really think about, because it sounds like the way the existing proposal from the developers is coming along, you know, they're not seeing that as their problem. But I'm seeing it as, or I'm thinking, I want to discuss the possibility of seeing it as, maybe that means that we're just going to inherit it as our problem. Planner, council, taxpayers. And so I think that that's one thing that I want to throw out there early in the game, is because there's a kind of an interesting pinch point on Darley, you know, reflected by you can't turn left here at a certain time in the morning, you can't turn left here at a certain time in the evening. And then, and it's the same situation there on Peters Creek. Now, what's happened on the rest of Brandon as it continues on down to, which is unofficially the center of my neighborhood, the Shell station there at Brandon and Mudlick. That's the theoretical center of my town, the town that I live in now. Kind of a far reach to grasp that as true, but I do go there and buy the newspaper. And I do buy gas there. So I guess the point is, I just want to make sure that I'm encouraging all of us to go in with a completely open mind about I told a story earlier. I mean, the developer, they're coming in and they're perfectly happy to take on all the rights and privileges of being able to develop this space. And as I said, I don't think Adam nor I or the neighborhood association is against houses in the neighborhood. But I think the problem is, there could be a problem that I see is, are we willing as everybody else, not the people on the map, and not the people who are developing what's on the map, but are all the rest of us willing to take on all the responsibility that's going to come with that? Because not to say things didn't work out the way we'd hoped in the past, but this was all in the county. And then it became part of the city. And then there were promises made and contracts made about, oh, you're going to be part of the city, and of course we'll do this and this and this and this. Well, those things haven't happened. So I just wanted to make sure. 2 points. One is our willingness to work beside the city planners, the developers, and everybody else who's got some skin in the game here to make this project not only successful in the next 3 years, but successful 5 years down, 10 years down. And I think in consideration of that is we need to zoom out as far as we can and think about, so what's coming? Because as far as I can tell, and I'm familiar with this neighborhood, I was born in 1950, so I've been familiar with it since I could ride my bicycle. So let's say 1958. I don't know how far you have to go in any direction to find another house. Thank
We're gonna
you.
move forward now. Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the issue? Would you guys like to speak to his questions?
All right, so I'm gonna walk through this a little bit and unpack what Adam and Gary have shared a little bit. So Dyerly neighborhood is a dynamic group, incredibly important neighborhood. And these traffic comments are holistic in nature, right, for what's been shared. And so I think we can appreciate that there's been many conversations before, even before my time, in the A&E industry, that's been going on between connectivity and traffic and direction and all that. So there's a lot of historical conversations with the city that have occurred over time, right? So I'll share that kind of starting out. And so, particular to this project, there's, we wanted to get out in front of these comments, because I think what was provided is, hey, the great thing of what's occurring is Brandon Avenue is actually being successful in this section now, right? Where rewind 10 years ago, it was a tough stretch of road to be on. And so we've seen a lot of positive growth in that area, adjacent to Dyerly neighborhood. And Dyerly neighborhood connects to arterial roads, local roads, some regional connectors. They mentioned the commuter side, which are all there. And as part of this project, from our side, we have multiple connection points. So one of the, strategies here, one of the things that's really important from the city's perspective is interconnected streets, right? So you have different options to go different ways. And then we get to these points like Brandon and Dyerly, where you have this connection point, right? There's been a lot of conversation about that. Rewind 15 years ago, the solution to when you had a traffic problem was put in a signal, right? So it was, hey, you put in a signal and that's gonna fix the traffic issue. Well, there's been a lot of been a lot of additional thought to that, and especially in the city of Roanoke. City of Roanoke's been leading some of the traffic efforts where, hey, the signal isn't necessarily the right answer here. Maybe a roundabout's the right answer. Who would have ever thought that we would have a 2-lane road running beside Tower Shopping Center on Brandon Avenue? Of all the places that we think there's so much traffic adjacent to Tower Shopping Center, and because you can move traffic through an area different ways, there's another project going on Williamson Road right now. There's some road dieting stuff that's occurring. Road dieting is buzzword. And so I think it's not a one solution fits all for what's going on with them. And I think they shared a lot of great points about, hey, with the development that's going on in Brandon Avenue, I think we need to take a look at holistically from the city side about, hey, what are the priorities here? What are the steps that we need to take? And I think I would share that, and staff is taking notes from this side, but from a development side, I don't have much to share, but from a holistic traffic engineering growth standpoint, from what I'm hearing from the neighborhood, I think it's great to have success along Brandon Avenue, but it's probably the time to take a look at one of those other pieces as part of that. And so I think those are the big picture items that I wanted to share, that I would share in response to that, not necessarily direct to the project, but holistically from a traffic engineering standpoint, from a community planning standpoint, because their comments are exactly right. It was a neighborhood built many years ago, narrow streets, which is good, which tries to slow down traffic, but very limited pedestrian accommodations, no curb and gutter. They mentioned complete streets was not in the picture at that time. And so some of those are challenges for the older neighborhoods in the area. So that's what I would share in response to that.
Thank you.
Yes, sure. Sure. Yeah.
So being that there is no one else, the public portion of the hearing is closed. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for either him or her? Sorry.
I have a question.
Sure.
So in response then, regarding the fact that the developer, or the applicant conducted a traffic study that showed that the impact of 195 units coming into this area was going to not necessitate dramatic changes to the Darley community. Are you still standing by that traffic study, or in light of comments that you've had with the Darley Neighborhood Association and others, do you feel like that needs to be amended in any way?
Sure. I think it's a great question. So the traffic study that we provided, we stand behind 100% of what we've done. The City of Roanoke Transportation Division also stands behind it, because they haven't issued an approval, but they kind of issue a concurrence and say, hey, we agree with what you're providing here. And from the Darley neighborhood standpoint, when you talk about transportation, there's two sides of the Darley neighborhood. There's the side that connects to Roanoke City, and there's the side that connects to Roanoke County. Okay, two totally different approaches on transportation engineering, right? And so if you go to the Roanoke City side, focus on pedestrian connectivity, focus on narrow streets, focus on small radiuses at intersections and access points. You go over to the Roanoke County side, and VDOT will say, hey, we need a turn lane and we need a taper, and we need to make sure we've got 500 feet of that at every intersection. And there's a totally different approach. So when the Darley neighborhood is talking about traffic, there's kind of two sides to the conversation, because you have two different bodies that are looking at those concerns from one way or the other. And so for this site, for our traffic study, we certainly support what we provided, and so does the city. Sure.
Any further discussion on this matter? Okay. Ms. Clark, could you please take the roll?
Mr. Ocean,
Before I do my vote, I want to express my sentiments on this development. And I think from the beginning, I put that I think this is a big undertaking for anybody to take on based on its location, so close proximity to the water exposure. That being said, the number of houses that are being proposed here, it's a dense population. However, I think it's also a needed part of our city where we find more housing like this, and the hopes would be also with a development like this is we've got a strip mall a little bit further down the street on Apperson where the old Food Line used to be. That's been vacant for years, and you know, you see a development like this, does that help encourage more people to maybe develop that center and develop it? So, I do like the idea about traffic circles, it slows traffic down as because that is a very busy corridor. I live close by there, it's fast, people are moving on that street. So I do, my concern is in the mornings, making a left turn coming out of there, the amount of traffic that goes through there. But all that being said, my vote is yes.
Mr. Suttle?
Thank you guys for comments from the neighborhood. I hope we're well researched and warranted. And I do feel like the developers are going to keep you in the loop during this. This is really very infancy of this project. And there's a lot more steps to go where I think the neighborhood will and should be involved. My vote is yes.
Ms. Wolf? I really appreciate the applicant's comments in response to the public comments that were shared, because there is, I don't want to say a tension, but perhaps a difference of philosophy between the city and the county regarding how traffic is managed. But in all the information I've reviewed, the traffic study does stand for what it is right now. And I think that traffic to any area has to be balanced by the benefits of the density that will be brought forward from having this many affordable residential sites be made available for home ownership is going to be a huge benefit to the Darling community. And for that reason, I vote yes.
Ms. Smith?
I think you guys have done a fantastic job. It's a very exciting project and the housing is needed. So with that, my vote is yes as well.
For the positive recommendation.
May I have a motion in a second, please?
Motion. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, so our next applicant is Mark Roanoke LLC to rezone the property located at 5060 Valley View Boulevard Northwest, official tax map number 2490111 from CG Commercial General District to INPUD Institutional Plan Unit Development District, subject to the development plan that specifies uses, location of buildings and infrastructure, and site design. Is the applicant present? You just represent everybody, huh?
Just the right groups.
Okay, I think we know your name and address.
I'll be happy to restate it again. Ben Crew with Balzer and Associates, 1208 Corporate Circle, Roanoke, Virginia, 24018. So a couple of updates in regard to this request. So between the work sessions and up to this point of the public hearing, we've been soliciting and receiving feedback from various parties, including staff and city council. And at this time, we're going to request to continue the application for 1 month to November, with the intent of having 3 or 4 weeks to have some additional conversations, and make sure everyone understands exactly what is being proposed and why it's being supported, and try to do a little bit more, a little bit further discussions rather than just folks reading a staff report or reading the application, and have a little sit down time with a few folks. So as the agent on behalf of the owner, we're requesting a continuance for 30 days until the November meeting.
Thank you. So before we consider a vote on the continuance of this matter, since it was legally advertised, I will open the public hearing. Are there any speakers who wish to speak on this application? Hearing no one else in, since the applicant has requested a continuance, the public hearing will remain open until November 10th, 2025, public hearing. Commissioners, may I have a motion and a second to continue this matter to the November public hearing?
I second.
Thank you. Ms. Clark, would you please take the roll?
Yes, Mr. Oshie?
Yes.
Mr. Sutherland?
Yes.
Ms. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes. If there are no other matters to discuss, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Good job.
Good.